Hi there everybody, welcome to another video. On today's video I have this Audi A4, the Avant version automatic petrol 2-liter TFSI, and I'm going to be changing the oil and the oil filter. That's the TFSI there. This is my oil filter, the Malay OC 456. I'm gonna top up some screen wash fluid, or I'm gonna show you where because I already done it. And we're going to check the coolant level and the percentage of antifreeze in our coolant. So I'm going to show you where this goes. You can buy this ready to use, as it states there, and it will withstand up to -10. So that goes in here. You open that and you fill it up. Mine is already full. And this screen, this fluid is to wash your windscreen. So if you put only water there and it happens to be -10, it will freeze and it won't come out. So make sure you have the proper screen there, because it also has some additives to clean your windscreen. So it's like like you use washing up liquid for washing your dishes and whatnot. It's got that detergent stuff. But don't put washing up liquid on this tank, because it's very foamy and it will just create foam when you're cleaning your windscreen, and it will also freeze. So use the proper stuff. It's cheap enough, and you can top up that and then put the rest of it in the boot, because we always using fluid for the windscreen, especially during winter. So you don't want to be running out. You always want to keep it top it up. Now let's move on to the coolant. I've got this little gadget to check the percentage of coolant. This is the coolant here. You can see the sort of red pinkish color in there. That's the coolant in there. It's just a tiny bit below the max, but the car's been running. So if your car is hot like this one, be sure to open this very carefully. I always put pressure on it while I open it to release the pressure a little bit, and you may see the coolant come up a little bit when you open this cap. But be careful, because you can burn yourself and that would be tragic. Okay. Right, now I open that. You can see my coolant, it's pretty much very close to the max, so I'm not concerned with that at all. That's where we more or less aiming to be, in between min and max. If you were at the minimum, you may want to top up a little bit. If you were at below the minimum, somewhere down here, you may want to investigate for any coolant leaks, and it shows you here sort of what type of coolant to put. G12, and this is sort of pink coolant. Right, let's suck some of that. You can see the color there, and this little gadget is going to show us sort of the temperature at which this fluid would freeze. It's about -26. We can wait a few seconds to let it settle, but that will show you. So it will have to be -26, -30 outside for that to freeze. Obviously, if you are living in the North Pole, you may need a percentage of antifreeze that's much higher than that, because in the North Pole it could be up to -40, -50, I don't know. So you would need more antifreeze basically. In this case scenario, I'm in the UK, so that's pretty much good enough. If you were in a very hot country, I suppose you can have a little bit less antifreeze, but you still want to have antifreeze, because it's got agents that protect the engine from corrosion. So you don't want your engine to start getting corroded, and also those agents sort of degrade a little bit with time, which is why they recommend to change your coolant every 2 years. Not that many people do it, even I don't do it, but that's what the manufacturer's recommendation is. So that's settled at about -27. So that's good enough for me. Now we can drain that back in there. and we can close that. So as I said, if I was below the min, then you would want to find out why. Right, now we can move on to doing our oil and oil filter. Our oil filter is right up here, so we aiming to remove this cover here. Just unplug it from there, like so. We're also going to open this oil filler cap. We just want to leave it sitting there, just allowing a little bit of air to go in there for draining the oil from underneath. And okay, and now we're gonna open that. Right, in order to remove that filter, we need one of these sockets. This is a 7614. You can see that. A little bit difficult to see, but that basically that sits on there, and then with a ratchet you can undo that filter. And we'll undo it slowly to give it a bit of time for whatever oil that's in this filter to drain down. Just trying to avoid a little bit of a spillage. It's usually okay, but these metal filters, so usually the filter holds some oil inside. I can just about see a little bit on this side. So usually if we allow a little bit of air, the oil should drain down, but there's always, I always get a little bit of a leak on the side or so. Hopefully not too much. But there is a bit. You may be able to just see it there. So that would be something that you want to clean. We want to rinse with some, afterwards we want to rinse the area with some brake cleaner fluid. Right. I can hear the oil going down. Okay, now if you're working outside, oops, I dripped a bit of oil there. If you're working outside, just be aware of things that can go in there. So perhaps you wanna cover this up a little bit. Just gonna give it a bit of a rinse right there. But you may wanna leave a bit of paper or something on there if you're working outside, so no dirt or leaves or things going there. I'm not really working outside, so I can leave it open, but that's just a recommendation. Now I'm gonna get the car up, we drain the oil, and then we can come back to this. Looking at the car from underneath, you're gonna have this cover, this plastic cover here is gonna be held in by some screws, which look like this, sort of Phillips screws. You turn them out, you turn them a little bit and they come down. And you may have a couple of T25 torque screws as well holding the cover. I removed two from this end, from the front end there. And then you can take this cover out And by the way, 3 of the screws, so these 3 here, they usually remain in place. They don't come out. You loosen them and then they stay in place if they still have this little rubber thing. Otherwise they come out. That exposes our sump, and we want to use a socket to open the sump plug bolt. So I'm just gonna get an oil pan to catch the oil, and we can go ahead and do that. Okay, have my oil pan, and with a 19mm socket we can open that bolt. And okay, now it's loose, but we may still need the socket to open it a little bit. Just remember, if the engine's been running and it's at normal temperature, this oil can be very hot as well. So don't burn your house, don't burn your hand. You could always wait for the car to cool down a little bit before you tackle the oil change, but you want it to be a bit warm so the oil can completely drain out and it can flow out a little bit easier. Well, it won't completely drain out, but it will. So now we're gonna wait for that to drain. Don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes. While the oil is draining, we can prepare our sump plug bolt. So that's the old copper washer there, and I've got a new one here to fit there. And the size of that copper washer, it's a 14 by 20 by 1.5 millimeters if you need to get one. So I usually order a few because I'm always using these size. It usually fits Mercedes and this type, Audis and VWs. So if you haven't got one for any reason, you can inspect your old copper washer and you can reuse it. It's not the end of the world. I have reused them before and they've been fine. If it's obviously been used a few times, then it could leak. So that's why you want to change it, just to avoid any leaks or anything like that. But anyway, that is done. Our filter is here also, ready to go. Just have to remove this cover. And as soon as that finishes draining, we'll fit that back on. Okay, this part pretty much finished, so we can go ahead and refit our sump plug bolt with a new washer on it, and we'll rinse the area as well. Some brake cleaner. Brake cleaner is very good for dissolving oil. It cleans really well, basically. Now I'm using a torque wrench here, and it's set to 35 Newton meters. So we can tighten that to about 35 Newton meters. Which isn't a lot of force, but I would definitely recommend you using one, especially if you are not doing these kind of jobs all the time, because then you wouldn't know how much to tighten that to, and you could damage it, and you don't want to damage anything down here because it just makes your simple oil change a nightmare. So get a torque wrench if you do your own work on your car, and then you can tighten nuts and bolts to the correct torque and without damaging anything. So now I'm gonna fit the plastic cover down here, lower the car, and we can top up some oil. Time to get our filter on. So I usually put a little bit of multi-purpose grease around this O-ring here so it can slide nicely once we get this in there. So screw that on, get in there by hand. And we're just going to tighten these by hand. It says there on the filter around 20 Newton meters. It does show you your hand there to tighten that. So you can open this now. Just get that little bit of dirt. And we're gonna put some oil in there. So it takes 4.6 liters, and I'm going to use 5W30 oil, and we're gonna top that up now. Right, you can actually remove this little thing to clean it a little bit, just so no dirt goes in there. And now I'm gonna put some oil. So 5W30 is recommended. Depends on the country that you live as well, that you can choose the viscosity of the oil. And I'm also using A3, it is. So A3B3, A3B4 oil will be recommended for petrol engines. You can have a look in your manual. So 4.6 liters, I just added in there. And now we can close that. And that's it, we're pretty much done here. So we can just have a quick recap. We've drained the oil and we put our sun plug bolt to about 35 Newton meters with a new copper washer, so we know that's nice and tight. And we put our new filter, it's tight, and we top up some oil, 4.6 liters, and we close this cap. Now we can confidently go and start the car. And that's pretty much it. So no warning lights coming up here, no oil pressure lights or anything like that. Okay, so all is running okay, and we can now just finish off. I'm just gonna switch it off now for now, but all that's left to do is fit this cover back on there. That just plugs back in, and we can close our bonnet. And we're pretty much done. So having said that, hope the video helps. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask. And otherwise, we'll see you on the next video. So thank you for watching.